What's up? Hey, we're back here in the Ville. This is ASTROVILLE. We're sliding on down to the end of season 1. We'll probably cut it at 12 episodes and go into 2. We got some new things coming on season 2, but for today, for episode 10. 10 is the number of completion, and who better to have on my podcast than the woman that completes me, Cara Naomi Lyles.
Oh, you're so sweet, babe.
Hi.
Hi.
How you doing?
I'm doing good.
You're looking good.
Oh, thank you. This is very nice of you.
You nervous?
A little bit.
It's all good. Just chill. It's just me and you here.
Right.
Yeah. And everybody else.
Right. I mean, it's just been like watching everybody else on it and then being on it.
Yeah, what does it feel like?
It feels like how I thought it would feel.
Yeah.
Just a little bit like, I don't know what people are gonna ask or like what.
Yeah. So we're open to questions. You know, if you want to ask about anything really. So yeah, just throw them in the chats. And Marissa, say what's up, Marissa.
Yo, what's going on?
Marissa's on Cam and Mike with us today, so she could read our questions and comments to us. So nothing yet. Mm-hmm. I think Chris Bell said she was gonna throw one in there. Mm-hmm. I guess she's gonna start strong, Chris Bell. But so yeah, before we get any questions in, why don't we go ahead and just run down our story? You want to?
Sure. Do you want to run it down?
Yeah.
Or do you want to?
Why don't we talk about our backgrounds first?
Okay. Do you want me to go first?
Yeah, go.
Okay. So I was born and raised in Colorado Springs. That's my hometown. You know, if anyone in the comments from Colorado Springs, shout out because
See Springs, baby. That's the spot.
It's fire over there.
Except it's really crazy right now.
Yeah, definitely. We wouldn't move back there right now.
We moved out at the right time.
Yeah, we definitely did.
Florida is nice and free.
Yeah. And whenever we go over there, it's like wild. But yeah, so I was born and raised in Colorado Springs. I went to high school at the Air Force Academy. And,
what does that mean?
I went to high school on a military base. I went to high school at the Air Force Academy, and I went to a charter school from kindergarten till 10th grade.
Are there like certain requirements to go to Air Force Academy?
No, because it's a public school.
Oh, wow.
I think it's a public school. Yeah. So, there's that. That was a big transition. Because at the charter school we had to wear uniforms, and there wasn't very many mixed people or black people. But it was a good transition. I think that it did me well to kind of break out of that from being around the same people from kindergarten till 9th grade.
I went to different schools almost every year.
Yeah. That, I don't even know.
Yeah, to get used to new things.
Yeah. But that was because of you, though.
Yeah, I got kicked out of almost every school.
Yeah.
Except Astronaut High School.
Yeah. Yeah, that's wild. I'm so glad that you're not wild like that.
Yeah, me too.
Having kids really chilled you out.
Mm-hmm. And getting married.
Oh, yeah, that too. Yeah, so Zach and I met when I was 2 weeks away from turning 18.
Yeah, she told me she was 18. I didn't know.
Yeah, and he be trying to play people like that really mattered because really I was just like, because you know I know all you girls know, like when you're young and somebody's fine trying to talk to you and you know they're older than you, be like, yeah, you know.
Fine.
Yeah. And I was like, yeah, I'm 18. And you believe me, that's the thing though.
I did. You looked so professional at your job where I met you.
Yeah.
You looked like you were 24 or something.
Yeah, I don't know how that is. I mean, that's good. But yeah, no. I was a baby. I was such a baby. Especially looking back now.
Mm-hmm.
So, a little bit backstory on like how I was raised in my childhood. I was adopted as a baby from birth. And I have 3 siblings that were also adopted. I have my oldest brother and then my second oldest brother and my little sister, and we were all adopted from different families. And my parents, they couldn't have children, and so they spent a lot of time trying to have children. They couldn't, and so they decided that they wanted to adopt. And so God gave them a vision of adopting specific children, and they had all of our races and like ethnicities chosen.
Like when you say a vision, was it just like what do you mean by that?
Like my mom pretty much told me that like she had prayed about everything, and like because the adoption process can be messy. I mean, even most of the time it is messy. Even before she adopted my youngest sister, we adopted another child, and that child ended up having to go back into the system. And so yeah.
What happened with that?
I honestly don't know a whole lot. I just remember her face. I just remember what she looked like. She was this little black girl, and I think it was something like her birth parents changed their mind or something like that before she was legally adopted. Because after you're legally adopted through the court system, then that's it. It's a wrap. You really can't do anything. I was even, my biological father tried to take me back from my parents who adopted me at one point, but at that point it's beyond their control. But she just had she just told me that she knew she wanted a Hispanic and white child, which is my oldest brother, a Chinese son, which is my second brother, and then me, and then my younger sister who's half white and half black. She just knew that she wanted those
specific mixes.
Mm-hmm. And
what about you?
So I am.
Well, I know what you are. Did she want?
She wanted. Actually, that's a good question. I'm not sure if she specifically was like, well, for people who don't know my ethnicity, I'm Black, Native American, and Hispanic.
In thirds, huh?
I think so. I know that my biological mother is Hispanic and Native American, and my biological father is Native American and Black. But I'm not really sure like the percentages of what they are. But I know that she knew what she wanted when she went into the adoption process. And so she adopted all of us, and we had a great childhood. From my perspective, we were very blessed. My mother is still an amazing mother. She did everything for us. She was just so loving, and the love that she has for us is, as my mother, not as somebody who, just decided to take us in as her own. And so, that obviously really affected, everything, even to things that I don't understand now.
Do you think about what your life would have been like if you never were adopted?
Sometimes, but it's hard to, because even when my mind tries to go there, the amount of possibilities that come to mind, it's just like, it just blows my mind. It's almost like I'm in like a video game or something. Like everything was planned out for me. That's how I've always known that God has always been with me, because I feel like, even when I've spoken to my birth mother and my birth grandmother, that like God was always involved in the adoption process, and praying over me when I was a baby, or while I was in my mother's house and stuff like that. And so I don't really go there in my mind, because there's really I was adopted and it was for a reason. And so to go there in my mind can kind of trip me out too much to go there, honestly.
Well, I'm glad you were, because I don't think we would have met.
I don't think so either.
And meeting you was great, but having our babies was even greater.
Yeah, we have great babies.
We do. They're pretty awesome.
Yeah, we have 2 boys. We have 1-year-old and almost 3-year-old in January. I'm sure most of you guys know.
So you're adopted. You got 3 adopted siblings. Go to Air Force Academy. Sounds super dope and everything.
I mean, it wasn't that cool.
Yeah.
I mean,
and then you met me. You were still a baby.
Yeah. So when we met, my mindset was not to necessarily talk to anybody or be around anybody. I was really just trying to work and finish high school because I had just gotten out of a relationship pretty recently, and it was heartbreaking. So when we met, my mindset wasn't necessarily to talk, but neither was yours. So,
yeah. So mine, I'll run it back. I was born and raised in Titusville, good old big city, Titusville, Florida. And my parents split up when I was about 7, I think. And so I lived mostly with my mom, but I lived some years with my dad in different places like Belglade, Florida, Colorado Springs. So yeah, I happened to live in Colorado Springs, well actually Widefield, when I was like 11, 12, 13, probably 11 and 12. And then we also lived in another city in Colorado, I think when I was like 5, before my parents split up. But mainly it was Titusville. And there's not a whole lot to do there. But I'm not going to blame, that for my troubled past. I was actually just I was a really angry kid. And I think, I had some serious anger problems. I was really small too. So like people would pick on me and I would just beat the mess out of people. And it's not like I really knew how to fight when I was like a little kid. Mm-hmm. But what I realize now, I've known for a while that it wasn't fully me. I was definitely, overtaken by demons. Mm-hmm. So at 13, I got delivered, and it was all by myself. But well, actually, I can't say it was all by myself. I was, I got to the point where I was like, I hate my life. I hate being like this. I don't know why I do this. Like I lose control and I black out, and then I wake up the next morning like it was a dream. Like I thought I was dreaming all of that.
That's so demonic.
And then I'd realize like, yeah, I destroyed everything in the house, or like, yeah, I went and beat up the retarded kid or something, So like, yeah, I didn't know he was retarded, by the way. So anyways, so I was at that point, the lowest level I could possibly be at 13. And, I was like, what do I do? My mom's like, you just got to give it up to Jesus. I'm like, I don't know what the heck that means or what it looks like, but I prayed all night long. And
I'm so glad that
my boy Dominique, he stayed on the phone all night with me, praying with me. And man, he's been there since day one. Dominique Washington, Akeem Music 321. Go check him out. So
and shout out to Misty for always
my mother
keeping Zach straight.
Yeah, well, she tried.
I mean, she at the end of it all, she's the one who taught you about the Lord. So without that seed planted, who knows where you would be. Yeah,
I'm grateful for both of my parents. I mean, they weren't perfect or anything, but I wouldn't be where I am today. Right. Without their influence.
Right.
So 13, I ended up going to, that's when I kind of stopped getting kicked out of schools. I had just moved back from Colorado at this point. And I think I went to like, what was it? One of the middle schools in Titusville, and I got kicked out of there. And so I tried homeschooling, and it just like, I also, the school system the public school system wasn't a good place for me because they didn't have a place for me. They ended up putting me with kids with learning disabilities because I had an emotional disability, right? Because I was a threat to normal kids. But the thing is that I was testing at college levels at like 3rd and 4th grade. So they didn't have a spot for me. They didn't know what to do with me. So I'm in these classes with kids, some are really super smart and just got emotional or social problems. Some of them are like, I wasn't with the retarded kids. Like that was a whole nother class, but there was people with like learning disabilities there too. And so it was like, you can't have a room with, kids with emotional and social problems with IQs ranging from the 50s to the 200s in the same class. Like that doesn't work. And my teacher was kind of, he was a weirdo, Mr. Thompson. You should know you're a weirdo. So yeah, it was a weird time, at Imperial Estates. But I ended up going to Astronaut High School after I didn't follow through with homeschooling because I didn't have any discipline. So I went to Astronaut and things got better. So I mean, there still wasn't.
You got older too.
Yeah, I started maturing and I got a little taller, so I got picked on less and didn't get into as many fights and stuff. So so high school was like, it wasn't interesting. I had one teacher that out of like my whole time in school, Mr. Gattapi, he was a great influence on me. He's actually the person that got me interested in etymology. So I probably wouldn't be interested in poetry as much as I am if it wasn't for him, because he taught me, if you learn the roots of words, you could figure out whatever word you're dealing with. So that was great. Other than that, I wasn't challenged and it wasn't interesting. And so I didn't go to school as much as I was supposed to. And when I was there, I was sleeping in class because at about 13, that's when I downloaded Fruity Loops and started making beats. And they sucked at first, but I started getting really good at it and making some dope stuff. And I think my mom, she got married when I was like, I'm going to mess up this timeline, but I think I was like 16 or so. So she moved down the street with her husband, and my sister and I were at the house on Singleton. And so I had this big back room in the house. It used to be 2 bedrooms. Before we moved there, they took down a wall and made it into one. So it was like a big suite looking thing. So I cut off half of it with a curtain and started building a recording studio. Shout out to Chris Knight. He definitely came through with a lot of equipment. And so, just this little crew of Titus Villians, we were making music and staying up all night doing that. And that's why I was sleeping in class. So I woke up one day in one of the classes and I just was like, you know what? I don't know why I'm here. So I left and I got my GED. And I guess my story is a little bit longer than yours because we met when you were in high school. But after high school,
yep.
I was kind of just, adventuring. I moved to Texas when I was 17 with my aunt and my little cousin. I think when I was 8.
Shout out to Chris.
Yeah, Chris, what's up, homie? That's my little bro right there.
And Sierra.
Yes, and Sierra. And that's all, right?
What?
I don't know. Never mind.
Oh.
So,
I got you.
So, yeah. So, I moved back. We all moved back when I was like 18. Just was wild and crazy. Mm-hmm. And
sure was.
Yes, and
he was wild and crazy when we met too.
Yeah, I was. I've always been pretty adventurous.
Yeah, but that's what really, I think that's what really intrigued me about you.
It turned you on, huh?
Sure did. Because I must have, because we'll get to where.
Yeah. All right, so Anyways, long story short, I went to Bible college in Colorado. Karis, shout out Andrew Womack. Guy's dope. I actually came back to Titusville for the summer because I wanted to be with my girlfriend for the summer. But I had prayed about it and the Lord was like, no, you need to stay in Colorado. But I didn't stay. I went to Florida and ended up getting hit by a car on a motorcycle during my little summer break. So that was crazy. I finished my college up in Lake Mary because they had a school there too. And then I was like depressed for a while because I was in severe pain from this accident. Ended up getting healed.
Praise God.
Yeah, it was very crazy how that happened. And then I says to myself, I want to go on a road trip. And but I didn't tell anyone. I just prayed. I was like, God, I don't really know anybody right now that would be able to do this with me. I had a little check from the crash.
I don't know about no little checkbook.
So, I'm like, God, I want somebody to road trip with me. And so I kid you not, within like 3 days, I'm sitting in the car with Dominique and he's like, if you said you wanted to go on a road trip and you wanted me to go with you, I'd go. I'm like,
For
what?
real?
How did that come into your brain just now? And he's like, I don't know. I'm just thinking, if you wanted to go on a road, if you just happened to go, I'd go with you. And I was like, all right, let's go tomorrow. He's like, all right. Which is funny because he's not like a very spontaneous like that. So
you are.
Yeah. So we ended up going to a few different spots. Actually, that's when I got healed in Jacksonville with some friends. And anyways, went to Texas. Shout out to Uncle Tabby. We were there for 2 days. What was supposed to be 2 days. We ended up staying for 2 weeks. Went to Colorado. And while we were in Colorado, we're just like, you know what? Let's just fly back and get a U-Haul and drive it out here. So we did. Unfortunately, at about that same time, my stepdad died. Well, he went missing. They couldn't find him and everything. They found him a little bit later, but I came back home right about at that time when my mom was going through it. So after that, it so happened that my friend Chris Knight, which he's the guy that says don't stream on Mac, don't do it. It's I don't recommend Mac for anything or Apple products in general. So he actually was moving to Dallas at that same time that we were trying to move to Colorado. So we split the cost of the U-Haul, drove to Dallas with his stuff, then drove up to Colorado. And that was a wrap from there. The frat house. That's where I was staying.
Oh yeah.
It wasn't a real fraternity. It was just.
Yeah, but it was crazy.
It was
That's
a crazy spot. So.
Oh jeez.
So yeah, I was with the homies and we were like one day we're like, let's go get some food, So we went out to Tokyo Joe's.
That's where I was working.
There was Little Miss Caramel, all prim and proper, stocking up the wasabi or the soy sauce.
When I'm working, I'm in such a mode where like
you're a hard worker.
I am.
You're
I
a good
love
worker.
working.
Yeah, I know.
I miss working.
Yeah, I bet.
Someday I'll work again.
Well, you do kind of sometimes.
But
just kidding.
I mean,
we don't claim it on our taxes. So.
Yeah, I mean, you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I think working for somebody is cool, but I eventually don't want. I want to work for myself.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, you do. You're building your clientele.
Right.
By the way, if you're in the Melbourne, Palm Bay area and you need your hair or nails done, she's certified. So and she's good. Show them your thing.
I mean, I need to fill my nails, but
Oh yeah, show them. Can I do that?
No, don't do that. No.
Is this the right way?
They're not.
Look, is that right?
And they're not even filled right now.
Put them by your face.
Okay.
Yeah, is that good?
I do nails.
I'm back it up. Tell me when to stop.
Okay, but these are my nails, so
that was
I need to fill my nails, so just
Never done that
but
before.
I do nails, yes. I love doing nails.
Yeah, we got any questions yet?
We do.
Oh,
Oh,
wow.
shoot.
Okay.
Wait, but we didn't
Just
even
wanna
get-
That's okay.
interrupt you
We'll
guys,
come back
But we
there.
didn't even get to the part
Huh?
where we meet.
Okay.
All right. So,
Oh, okay.
Wait.
Oh, wait.
Is it deep?
I don't know. Let me check. All right. So Angie said, "What advice do you guys have for newlyweds, like
I want to
that are
Okay.
already in Christ?"
All right. Yeah, we'll get back to our story. So
Okay.
yeah, you want
I
to?
want to give
Are you
some
guys-
advice.
Huh?
Questions at
No, we'll just do it during all the
Okay.
way through.
Yeah, that's one of them.
Okay.
Chris
Oh, that's
has.
just. There's more.
There's two right now.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Yeah. So we'll do
So we'll
this
start
one.
with this one,
Yeah, yeah.
and then we'll finish the story.
Yeah, and then we'll get Chris Bell.
So newlyweds that are already in Christ,
Yeah.
I think that the most important thing in a marriage is to obviously keep God as the center. But I think that when you married, your priorities change so much, and you start like, you want to be a great wife. You want to, do everything for your husband, do everything in the right way. And it's really easy to get caught up
Mm-hmm.
in your man. Like Zach and I, we definitely went through that the first couple of years of marriage, and it was to a fault because we never did stuff like intimately really with the Lord, and if we did, it was usually in a setting where it was kind of like we should do it, type like a church setting or something like that. But I really believe that if we would have kept Christ as the center in all areas, that we would have dodged a lot of bullets, a lot of trials. And when you focus on God, his love for you is sufficient. So when your husband does something that's hurtful, or even not just your husband, or there's things going on in life that's challenging, God is sufficient enough to hold your hand through the process, and his power and love is more than enough. And I think that another thing is that God really honors his marriage, and
It's a tri-union.
right. And I mean, Zach and I are our walking testimony that even when things get hard in a marriage, God still comes through strong. Even
He's
when
about this marriage more than we are.
right, and sometimes it was very obvious that he was more about it than we were, because we quit.
Yeah.
And, at one point we did, and God brought us back together miraculously, and it was only because it was only at the point where our hearts were for him alone.
Yeah.
Like we
And
both
humbled.
we both were at a point where it was like, you know what, if this marriage doesn't work out, God, I know that you have greater for me. If that's what's gonna happen, or God, whatever your will is, let it be done, because you're sufficient. And so I really think that getting that down the first couple of years of marriage is like probably the biggest key, because once you start having children, especially as a mother, juggling all that stuff is challenging, and it only gets more challenging the more children that you have. The older that you get, then they start going on their own, but you also got to keep on top of them for this and that. And so it's a constant shift of focus. And I love my husband, but he knows that God comes before him, and then he comes, and then my children come. But it's a constant thing, even if it's stuff like, okay, if he does something that's hurting me and I don't know how to go about addressing it, I know that if I go to God about it, that God knows how to touch him in a way that will shift his heart and his mind to see what he's doing wrong, or to understand how to do things better. And so God is always like, if you don't know what to do in your marriage and you're having a struggle, go to God about it, and he will fix it. And it may not be in your timing, it may take patience, but he will do it. And God is our witness. He's done it for us so many times. I mean, we've been married for 6 years. It'll be 7 this upcoming year. And we've been through so many trials, but God has never, ever failed us. And we've been through more trials than an average couple. And if you know us personally, then you know that.
I don't know about that.
Well,
People got some crazy stories.
I
I mean, people
mean,
put themselves through some horrible stuff.
put it like this. a lot of what we've been through, people would not have gotten out on the other side married.
That's true.
And there's no other glory than to God for that.
Mm-hmm. So I would say, and that's good. You brought like more of a woman's perspective from a man's perspective on definitely God first. But priorities, like you said, and also balance is really important because, so you got to have your priorities in line. If your wife is over God, that's idolatry. And what happens is you start to be the best husband that you could be, and you don't even know what kind of husband she needs because you're not listening to God to show you what it is. So this is what happened with us. She was like, oh, I'm the best wife that I could ever be. I'm like, I'm the best husband that I could ever be. But I'm like, why aren't you being this? And why aren't you doing this? Like, I'm putting all this in and you're not. And she's like, well, what are you putting in? You're not this and you're not that. Like, I need this and that. So it's like, we thought we were giving everything that the other person needed, but had no idea what the other person needed. And that's from idolizing each other and not having God as the source.
And even if we would have told each other what we really wanted and needed, God knows more.
Yeah, and not just that, but it's hard. Like, yeah, if you told me what you need, like, yeah, maybe I could try and change my behavior, but God's the one that changes the root on the inside and produces the fruit. So
and he knows what both of us actually really needs, even when we don't.
Yeah. And then also, if you're telling me I need this and that, and then I'm trying to live up to it, and if I don't, and then there's expectations that I fall short of, it's just a mess.
Yeah.
It's just a mess, and it sucks to live like that.
You get wrapped up in that stuff really fast too.
And then you start keeping records of wrongs and you start keeping expectations. Here's one. A lot of people disagree with me on this. No expectations. Zero expectations on each other. I would say that's up there.
That's the best way to not get disappointed, but it's very hard, especially when you and a person have signed a contract that you will never leave each other no matter what.
Yeah. So that is like, okay, we gave our word. We're going to do this together. That means we're not going to go outside of our marriage. That means we're not going to go back to our parents. We're going to stick it out, me and you. Now, on top of that, I don't expect anything else from you. Now, you have to balance that with being love. Because if you say, okay, I don't have any expectations on you, so don't have any expectations on me, but then you live selfish,
right?
Then you're just leeching off the other person, and it's going to crumble. So it's like, you have to balance this. If you're going to live with no expectations, you also have to be love. And you have, like, that's why God has to be the center and the source, because if you're not receiving love from God, then you're going to be sucking it out of your mate.
And it's got to be God's love, because this world's idea of love is so twisted.
It really is. There's no conditions on God's kind of love.
Right. And this world is so full of conditions, and it's far beyond God's idea of love at this point. That's why so many marriages don't work, because
it's twisted and perverted.
Right.
Yeah, right. Love doesn't enable. Love builds up. Love encourages. And I mean, you could look in the Bible to see what love is, but you got to have that balance. No expectations, and be the full capacity of what God made you to be. And you're going to fall short of your absolute capacity, but it's better than being selfish. So,
right. And God will do the rest.
Yeah.
Like, it's a lot simpler than we make it out to be in the moment and in the drama and in the stress. But really, if you embody the love of God, there's nothing more that you could possibly do in a marriage.
So also, I'd have to say, to the men, if you're newly married, or you're planning on getting married, or you're preparing for marriage, you got to grow the hell up. You really have to say, okay, I had my playtime. I had my little adventures. If you haven't had that yet, go adventure. Don't look for a mate. Go find out what the world's like. I mean, not like all the depths of the evil in this world. I'm saying like go to a different country, go travel a little bit,
move out of your parents' house.
Yeah, go get out of your parents' house. And maybe while you're out there, you'll find your mate. But what I'm saying is like, once you decide to give your life to marriage, it's death. Like it's the end of your life and you're going to be born again as one with another human being. So everything that you want and desire and feel like you need in life, like all that's dead. You got to be willing to give everything up. It's just like giving your life to Jesus. Like you don't add Jesus to your life. You don't add a wife to your life. You die and you're born again into as a new creature, one with another person. That sounds familiar, right? It's the gospel. So that marriage is just a symbol of God.
Right.
God is a triune being. Marriage is God, man and wife as one.
Right.
We are individuals, spirit, soul, and body. It's all trinities. So,
and I think another one is one big thing that we've been dealing with lately, and something that I think a lot of women do, is we as women, I don't know why we do this, but we like to beat around the bush and like say what we think that our husband will understand without saying what we really want. So I think communication is huge, like really laying out what you need and what you want. And that's been something that's been hard for me in our marriage. And I think that's a woman thing. We like to like have men beat around the bush and try to have them guess what we need. Or like,
I don't know if that's just a woman thing, because I know a lot of men that are like that. And I know women that are very direct and blunt.
That's true. Well, I think then more than anything, like...
But it's probably more women than men.
Probably. Just to be real with yourself and be real with your husband. And...
Because if you don't, you're going to put all that stuff under the rug and it's going to just turn bitter.
Yeah. And it does fast.
Yeah.
It does really fast. And yeah, especially once you have children involved.
And you got all these responsibilities, so you feel like you don't have the right to bring all this stuff to the surface because you got stuff to take care of. It's not true.
And be patient, because we got married so young. We got married when I was 19. Like my husband has watched me grow from a baby. Like I moved out of my mom's house for maybe like 6 months, maybe
while we were dating
with a coworker. But that's the only experience I had by myself, and I wasn't even by myself because I was living with somebody else. But because we married so young, he's literally watched me grow into a woman and a mother, and he's had so much patience with me through that process. And I think a lot of people who get married young might have an idea of what it looks like, but they're not ready to be patient with their husband throughout their process.
Can you move that? Yeah.
Because everybody grows and everybody changes. And I'm nothing like the woman that my husband first met.
No.
But
nothing.
I believe that I'm a much better version of myself, but it took him being patient enough and understanding, okay, she's learning, she's growing. So in the meantime, I'm going to love her through it, and I'm going to let her know that I'm on her side. And I think a lot of times we see marriages where maybe a man is in the growing process and a woman's like, no, I need you to hurry up and, make this money or, do this or do that. But that's not love.
Yeah. Yeah. If here's the thing. If you meet somebody and you're like, okay, marriage, and both of y'all are like, yeah, that sounds like a good idea. Here's the thing. And I see this a lot. It's like, how are they right now? You like them? You love them? Yeah, like I'll do anything for them. All right, what about all these bad things about them? Oh, it's okay. I'm going to love them and do it. And then a year into the marriage, I freaking knew it. You should have done this. Or like, why aren't you changing? And it's like, but you knew about this though.
Yeah.
Or maybe you didn't know. But it's like, if they were fine when you got them and they're screwed up 1 year into the marriage, maybe you screwed them up. Maybe it's you.
But even if it's not.
Yeah, you can't expect people to change.
Right.
Like,
And
that's not part of this.
The only thing that's going to change somebody for the better is to love them through it. And that's why people who don't know the Lord, if they're doing you wrong and doing you dirty and you love them through it, that will change their perspective on what love really is, and it will confuse them.
Yeah.
And be like, why does this person still love me? It's the same in marriage.
Yeah, and that's something that I think as Christians, we don't see often because we don't walk in it.
Yeah.
I see it, and I see it around me because I see people that really do turn the other cheek and love their enemies. I see that. But for a long time, I didn't see much of that. In a lot of Christian circles, it's like, yeah, we do that in church, but in business, no, it's a dog eat dog world out there. And like in every other area of life, it's like, no, the way the world has taught us that this is how we deal with it, but that's not love, so.
And I think when we speak about what we've been through and like actually experiencing what that looks like will reveal a lot of what marriage really is about.
So I think that's a pretty good
starter kit.
For that question.
Angie, I think
we love you. Which Angie is that?
That's Ange.
Oh, all right.
I love you, Ange.
Nice. Yes.
So why don't you go into the part? I like the way he tells the story of meeting me,
All right, so this is what happened, right? Okay. So I'm out with the guys. We're all sitting at this table, right? No. Before that, we walk in the store, right? So like I'm chopping it up with my boys, and we're walking up to the counter, and she's there at the counter, and I'm like, I see her, and I'm like, oh no. I'm like, because I might be pretty charming, but I get nervous, when there's like a really gorgeous girl that, might be out of my league. I just pretend that we're in the same league, but I just be like really nervous. So, it was my turn at the counter. So I'm like thinking, I'm like, what do I do?
I could feel it.
Let me just stop. I'm not going to do anything. Let me just, no, you know what? I don't even want a girlfriend. I'm good. I'm good right now. So, this is all my internal. And then I get to the counter and I see her and I'm like, so I just literally look at the menu and just pick the first thing that I see. And, went by really quick. And then I think she was like, you want the drink or whatever? And I'm just like, no. And then, so I'm like, I realized like after it happened so fast. I was just like, dang, I need to get a drink. So I was like, there was another guy behind the counter. I was like, hey man, I forgot to order a drink. And he was like, here, just take a cup. He didn't even make me pay. That was cool. So yeah, we all sat down, and then, so we all like, we all noticed you, right? And I was just like, yo, that chick is fine. But I was like, I'm good. Cause I was at a point where I was like, I had been in a long relationship that it ended badly. Mm-hmm. And so I was single for maybe not a whole year. I don't remember. It may have been a year, but, so I was just like, nah, I'm good. But we're all sitting there at the table, and I'm just like, man, I really want to go talk to her. And they're like, dude, go talk to her. And so they're talking me up, and I'm like, in this point of decision making. And then finally I'm like, yeah, all right, I'm gonna do it. So I stand up and I start walking. I'm like, oh shoot, I didn't even think about what I'm about to say. So I walk up to her, and she's there with her uniform on and name tag, and she's doing her little soy sauces. I'm like, hey, so you come here often? And she
I looked at him and I was like, he's being serious right now.
I was like, that was the quickest thing I could come up with at the moment. But I'm like, I know it's stupid.
And I knew one of them was going to come talk to me because I was serving that night. And I remember walking around, and it was like, y'all were making it so obvious that one of y'all was gonna come say something. I was talking to the girls in the back. I was like, yo, how much you want to bet one of these guys is gonna come talk to me right now?
Did you win some money? No, y'all didn't actually.
We didn't actually bet.
Oh, y'all a fake bet.
No, we should have. I would have won some money.
So I was like, can I get a napkin? And then she gave me a napkin, and I was like, I don't know. I was like, could you write your number on it or something like that?
Yeah. Yeah, and I knew I could feel like it was cute because I could like feel how he was nervous, but
I was really nervous.
But it was like he was very charming, and it was crazy because I felt like because I had like a strict rule, like I don't give niggas my number at work
Ever?
ever.
You never did?
Mm-mm.
I was the
like
only
a
one.
rule. Yeah, that was like a rule. That was like a rule I had, and if I ever did, it was when I was off of work.
I had you breaking a lot of rules.
All right. And so I gave him my number, right? But I remember giving it to him. And after I gave it to him, I'm like, oh my God, like what just happened? Like, I don't do this, you know? And then I remember after that day, I went home and I was going to, I think you had texted me.
Yeah, I hit you up that same day. I'm like,
he hit me up that night.
it was like later in the night. I was like, hey, you want to go on an adventure?
Yeah, he
and
texted
she
me,
said
he
yes
said
on the
that.
text. I'm like, damn, I could be a serial killer or
okay,
something.
well, listen. Okay, so, he didn't. Okay, well, yeah, you could have been. But, okay, well first of all, my best friend at the time, I gave her my location. And I, for sure, snuck out of my parents' house. But I had peace about it. I don't know. I was so curious about him because usually, you know how men play it, you know, hey, how are you doing? Blah, blah, blah. Like the basics, you know, and it's like, it's so old. You know what I mean? And so when he was like, do you want to go on an adventure? I'm like, oh my God, that sounds so fun. Like, what could me and him go do? I don't know. But like, he probably has something planned if he's going to ask me that.
I didn't know either. I was just like, we'll make it up as we go.
Yeah. And so I was like, that sounds fun. But listen, I was safe. You know, I gave my best friend at the time my location. I told her, I'm like, listen, I'm going to go on an adventure with this guy. I don't know what's going to happen. But girl, you got my location. So check me, you know. And I remember... Okay, so after that, so I snuck out of my parents' house, right? And they live in this house like on top of kind of a hill. And it's like kind of a cliff in the backyard. So I'm like dressed all cute running down this cliff, like trying to make sure I like... It's
not a cliff. You can't run down a cliff.
Okay.
It's a steep
like
grade.
A steep,
it is a very steep grade.
It's steep, right?
Yeah.
So I'm like running down there.
I was parked down at the bottom.
He was parked down there. And he had a red Subaru. And it was blacked out. Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
It was blacked out, and he was bumping some loud music. That's how I could hear him from my house. Right.
I had that 15 in the trunk.
Mm-hmm. So already I'm like, oh, all right. You know, this nigga got a nice little car. He bumping some music. And then I remember when I sat in the car, it was like I can't explain how he was. It was like, it was like there was so much to know about him, but he kept it to himself. It was like I was so curious about who this guy was because he was already so different from the jump. And like even when I was in the car,
Florida boy,
I don't know about
in Colorado
what it is, but listen, I remember being in the car and I was just like, I could just feel the chemistry before we even started talking. But when we started talking, it was so crazy because I was into music that nobody else was into, and he knew all the songs and the people that I listened to. And like,
yeah, I had spent like probably the last couple of years. Probably I think Chris Knight started getting me to expand my musical horizon,
mm-hmm.
and so we were listening to music like Phoenix and the Kooks
mm-hmm.
and
just people
the Strokes, the Killers,
yeah.
like all that indie rock and
mm-hmm.
roll.
And they would be like, "Hey, do you know this song?" And you'd be like, yeah. I'd be like, are you sure? And we'd play it. And like, we just bumped music for a while.
Yeah.
And then we started talking about other stuff.
We drove out. Did we drive?
First we went to the spot where we got married, which is...
Yeah, we drove up into the mountain.
Mm-hmm.
And we could see the whole city of Colorado Springs.
Yeah.
And it was night. So it was just
mm-hmm.
lights everywhere.
It was beautiful.
Yeah. We just
talked. And we talked about a lot of different stuff. And then after we had we were like, okay, you know, we definitely had chemistry and we were getting along very well. It was a really good night up to that point. And so then he was like,
so I took a knife out.
No, So then he was like, do you want to come see my house? And, you know, I'm young, right? I'm like, this nigga got a house. I'm like, sure, I want to go see your house, you know?
It was a rental, you know.
Well, it was a frat house. It was the quote unquote frat house. But, you know, when you're young and like that kind of stuff, I don't know. He was just so intriguing. I was like, sure. And at that point, I had felt safe with him. So I was like, I'm going to go. And so we went. And I remember when we walked into his room was full of like drawings and pictures and music. And like, it was just like, it was like an explosion of just like so much to look at. And like, it was like a freaking museum up in there. I remember just like looking at everything like, oh my God, like, what is this? Like, when was this from? And he had records all over his walls. It was like I had never seen anything like it. And it was crazy. And so he got to talking about stories and stuff because he had pictures and stuff on his walls. And we both really loved music. And we both still really love music. And so that was really amazing that we could vibe on that level. And then his room, there was a window that went to the roof. And so we went out to the roof and we started talking on the roof. It was kind of cold.
I think that's when we started to realize how similar we were. Mm-hmm. I remember sitting there and we're like looking at the stars and we were talking and I was just like, wow, I've never met somebody that like is so much like me.
Yeah, it was trippy. Honestly. It was weird because I felt the same way and it was like,
but you're so different, but you're so...
Yeah, and like everything about like, how is this man the same? It was like we were the same person.
So how about another question?
Wait, you're not going to finish the story?
No, we'll come back to it.
Oh, boo.
All right,
fine.
So another question. Here we come.
Are there more than one? Okay. How many?
Chris Bell has 2. This is all long chat.
Oh, shoot.
And then Miss C. Johnson has a question too.
Okay. Start with Chris Bell. Give me one from Chris Bell.
So hold on. I'm trying to find it. All right. So how did you guys get through Infidelity?
All right. We'll get there. That we'll definitely get back there. What's the next one? What's the one after that?
Yeah, that's a pretty long one.
The other one is, what is something you wish you knew before you both got married?
That's a good question.
Like, knew about marriage? Probably knew about marriage. Well, I think for me, nothing about marriage is something that you can prepare for. And there's nothing that I wish that
I think so.
I mean, as far as like circumstances and situations that you go through with your spouse, like you just got to seek the Lord in the moment and get through it. But I think for me, I didn't really know what I was getting myself into because of the infatuation I had with my husband. Like we were both, even before we got married, we were just like, we were crazy about each other. And it, even at one point, it was like, all the people that he lived with knew that we would argue and I would leave and he would chase after me. And it was a lot. We've been through quite a lot. But I mean, we always came back to each other, even if we broke up for a couple months and saw other people or whatever. There was always something about him that I felt like I needed to have. And so
what do you wish?
I think that I wish that I wouldn't have been so infatuated with you, but I would have really stood back and knew what face value a marriage was. Because when you're so infatuated with a person, it's almost like you have blinders on. It's like that's all you can see. You can't see outside of what's in front of you. And Zach is nothing like the man that I've met, 6 years ago. And so
7
years ago. Yeah. So I think the idea of marriage, like, seek God. If a man proposes to you and asks you to marry him, make sure you know that it's the timing for it. Because I believe if Zach and I would have dated longer, I don't really know what would have happened, but we would like, our decision to get married was pretty, like, one day we were just like, do you want to get married? Like, literally. And I was like, yeah, sure. Because we had been back and forth with each other so much, like, we knew we weren't leaving each other. There was no point in not getting married. At that point, it was like, this is stupid. Like, let's stop leaving each other and playing games and just marry each other. And so I believe that our hearts and our intentions were in it for the best, but I believe that we should have gone to the Lord and been like, Lord, is this the time for us to do it? And I don't know what he would have said. I mean, he honored it and we're here. You know what I mean? But I don't know if that makes sense, but know that the timing of your marriage is right, because God could want to grow you somewhere. God could want to grow him somewhere. I think timing is very important, but God will definitely honor what you choose, because marriage is his. You know what I mean? Because he did with us. And so, yeah, that's what I would say.
For me, nothing. I can't think of anything that I wish I knew. At all.
Well, that's good.
Yeah. How about Misty Johnson, Mama Dukes?
All right. So she said, if y'all knew about the 5 love languages, which each are y'all?
We do know about the 5 love languages.
Yes. So we'll run them down. There's physical touch,
Mm-hmm. Acts of service,
gifts, quality time,
and
I forgot.
She'll probably write it in the chat.
Yeah.
But we know what ours are.
Words.
Words of affirmation.
Yeah, affirmation.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So I think, I don't know. I think mine are changing.
Really?
I don't know.
Praise God. I'm just kidding.
I cannot with him. Okay, so my first one is gifts. That one probably won't change. That's not the one I'm talking about. You just need to, okay.
Yeah. I'm working on it.
Yeah. So, yeah, mine is his gifts. And I think I think from how I was raised, my dad used to always buy me stuff. And he never really was there for me emotionally. So I really held on to the stuff that I still have stuff that he gave me when I was, a child. I think that's why that's mine. And I think my other one is, it might have used to been something else, but now I think it's physical touch.
All right.
Okay, your turn.
I thought yours second was words of affirmation.
Yeah, I think it's changing. I don't know. That's probably the third one.
All right. For me, I think number 1, I don't know. 1 and 2, they're fighting for first place, but they'd be physical touch and acts of service.
Mm-hmm.
3 and 4 probably battle for, quality time and words of affirmation.
Mm-hmm.
And gifts isn't even on the paper.
We know. Yeah,
could care less. Couldn't care less.
It's crazy how ours are so different. But I think it's funny because I know that really challenges him.
Yeah.
And the way his mind is set up, he's such a
yeah, I had to learn how to get gifts because
he's still learning.
Yeah, I'm still learning. I'd be up in the store like, what can I get?
Yeah, but you need to listen to Craig's advice.
Yeah.
Because that's some good advice right there.
Yeah, it was. I started.
Oh, you did?
Yes, I did.
Let me find out.
I did. It's supposed to be a secret.
Christmas is coming. I'm gonna find out.
Yeah. So yeah.
Mm-hmm. That's a good question.
I was gonna say something, but I forgot.
Yeah, Missy did type in words of affirmation.
Yeah, words of it. Are there any more questions, or that's it for now?
Dom has a question.
Oh, Dom.
Dominique.
Dom. Oh, I miss
What's
you,
up,
Dom.
homie?
What's up, bro? Miss you, bro. So the question is, when you thought he was a drug dealer, how?
Oh my God, Dom,
How did
really?
you handle it?
I cannot. Okay, so let's talk about
we'll,
it. No,
we'll get back to the story.
No.
Oh,
Okay,
that's but we
let
passed
me
that
start.
up.
Let me start with
Okay,
that.
we passed
Okay,
that up already.
Dom, you're real funny because. Okay, so me and my best friend at the time, right? Think about it though, because we're young, right? We don't have. Okay, let me just start. Okay. So I meet Zach, right? And when we first met, he knew my love language was gifts because he would buy me all type of gifts. And I'd be like, all right, let me get some J's, my nigga, this, that. And every time he would pay for something, it was in cash. And he would just pull out like hundreds on hundreds. And I'm just like, okay. You know, whatever. This nigga either got a really good job or something, right? I didn't really think a whole lot about it until I found out he didn't have a job. So I'm like, okay, this man is like spoiling me rotten right now with no job. And he smokes weed. He probably a drug dealer. Let me find out. So me and my best friend at the time, we like were convinced. Like me and her used to be like, you know what? Let's do some research, blah, blah. Let's find out what's really. So we found out that, we had found out just like, there's websites you can find stuff out, you know what I mean?
What did you find out on me?
Oh, well, okay. If you must know. We found out about your mom's husband passing away.
Oh.
And it just like went along with like the sketchiness of everything that was going on right now.
No.
So I was just like,
He was a cop.
yeah, that's even more sketchy. How does a cop go missing? I don't know, right?
No.
We were convinced. It just made no sense because he had all this money and he didn't have a job and he never like really talked about money. He just was spending it, you know, and there seemed to be no cap. So I was just like, that's what any woman would think.
So how'd you handle it?
Well, at the time, I think I was having like my graduation party or something.
Let me tell you how you handle. You broke up with me. That's
I
what
sure
you did.
because I'm like, this dirty money this man's spending on me, I cannot be involved in this type of relationship. Because also, my best friend at the time, she was like very like, she was almost like the interrogation type. Like we had been best friends for almost 12 years at that point, and she was very protective over me, and she didn't like Zach. So I think that played
all.
Yeah, at all. Like they couldn't be in the same room together, and it was really awkward for me. But thank God that's over. So
I'm a nice guy. I don't know why she.
I mean, we'll never know. But she definitely played a part in that whole thing. But thank God you're not a drug dealer. Yeah, so I broke up with him on the night of like he had brought me flowers. And it was like the night of my graduation party or something. I had invited him and I took him outside and was like, listen, you know, I can't do this no more. I don't know. I think you're a drug dealer.
No, you broke up with me before that because I didn't even really want to go. And then it was just so awkward that I was like, man, we're getting the hell out of here. Come on, man.
Oh, because we weren't together then.
Yeah, no, because you had broken up with me. And I was like, what? And then you said, I think you told me something about, or I don't even know if you told me, I think, didn't Dominique and Rachel,
yeah,
they like
something.
had communications and so something like that. And then so I found out you think I'm a drug dealer. I'm like, what? And to me, this is like I got a pure heart intentions over here. I'm not lying about anything. I got a case from an old dude trying to take a left through a median and hit me on the motorcycle.
But also Zach had like the Zach you see now, he's a dad and everything, but before he was a little bit more hood, like the way that he dressed and talked, and he had guns and like, you know, so I don't know.
got guns.
He does, but just the way you came off back then, nigga, you could have been a drug dealer.
Yeah.
But he's not though. And we don't do drugs anymore. So. Thanks for that question, Dom. I appreciate that introduction of
so that's how she handled it. She broke up with me, but I want her back because I'm an honest guy. I wouldn't lie.
We broke up so many times though. That was just one of the crazy. Yeah.
Do we have any more questions right now? No. Okay. All right. So we'll continue with this.
You guys don't look her spell.
Oh yeah.
We'll get there. We'll get there. Okay. Where are we at in the story?
Oh, at the rooftop.
Yeah.
We was talking. So finish the story. Do you know how to finish it or you want me to finish it?
Oh, yeah. So we went back into the room.
No,
and then,
it's not. Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So I was like, gonna take her home soon or something like that. So I was like, you could tell it.
Why are you nervous?
No, I'm not nervous.
Why can't you tell it?
You remember it better.
Okay.
I got a bad memory.
No, you don't. You remember it.
I don't remember it like you do.
Okay. So this stuck out to me because men that were around me in that time were pretty disrespectful and like I could see past it, you know. And so he asked me, we were about to leave because I was like, yo, it's like 2:00 in the morning. I'm really not supposed to be here. We should probably go. And so he was like, wait. And he was like, can I give you a kiss? And that was, to me, that was like so different than a man trying to like push himself on me. Or
shout out to Pops.
Yeah.
He taught me that.
Yeah, because that made me feel safe and it made me feel comfortable and it let me know that he cared about me and not like how other men would be where they're just like, I'm going to kiss this girl because I want to kiss her and that's it. I don't care if she blah, 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 this, that, right? So, and then when we did kiss, I remember he almost fell backwards. He was like caught off balance. And
yeah, I went into a different dimension.
And I was like, yo, this nigga is strong right now. And
she got some big ass lips.
Yeah, so that was it. I mean, we were stuck like glue ever since then, even though we broke up.
Yeah. So all right. So there's plenty in this story that it's not, we'll be here all night telling the whole story. So so yeah, we went through some stuff and broke up a bunch of times, got back together and
got married.
Yeah. For me though, so part of my side of the story, I was like all in, right? At this point in life, I had already been like, all right, God, like, I'm not trying to be with anybody, but she just like took over my heart. So I was like, all right, God, like, I don't know about the one thing, is there the one or is there two maybe, or like there's the one and then well, I don't know. What I thought was that the one had split like back in the last relationship and it was over. So I was like, well, I guess I'll never have the one, So, but I was like, all right, God, so I don't know if that's real or maybe you got someone else for me, but listen, if you can just stitch her into my life and make her part of the plan, like I'll do whatever it takes. Right. So, and this is real. This is my real prayer. Like if your will wasn't her, if you could put her into it, I'll do anything. Right. And, well, the wording was a little different. I said, I'll bear whatever it takes, like whatever it takes, whatever I'll have to go through, like I will stick it out. And I can't really explain this well, but in a split second, I felt all of the pain and anguish and depression and loneliness and just the depths of what I would experience in the future in our relationship. But it was only for a second, but I felt all of it. And he spoke to me and he said, do you still want it? And like, I knew, I was like, that's what I'm going to have to experience if I'm going to say yes to this. And I said, yes. But I didn't know how that would manifest or what it would be like. But I said yes. So then I was like, all right, well, cool. So fast forward, we're in her room one day, and I was just like, hey, you want to go get married? She's like, yeah. So we went to the courthouse in Colorado.
We didn't tell anybody.
No, we didn't tell nobody. So in the Colorado system, you don't need an officiate. Officiary? I don't know the word. You don't need anybody to witness or nothing like that. You can
just take the paper.
So we just took the paper, we signed it, we went to that place that we first went on our first date up in the mountain where you could see the whole city. And we walked out into a pasture, and
we said our vows and we got married.
Yeah.
And our love for each other has always been pure. And it's been like so crazy, but it's always been pure, even when we weren't together. And so I don't know how you want to tell this part of the story, or if you're trying to answer this question, or like what you're trying to do.
Oh, well,
but that's a whole long story.
Yeah. So all right, after a year of marriage, and
it was longer than a year.
Okay,
because I had just turned 21.
Okay, we're skipping a lot of stuff here. Like when we got married, there was some incredible stuff that happened. Mm-hmm. As far as like being that experience of being born again as one person was like nothing I've ever experienced, and it was incredible. And just submitting to that,
we had a great year and a half of marriage before we split up. It just that.
And also, I grew up like close to poor. Like my family wasn't like rich or anything like that. My mom raised us off tips. Like she busted ass to raise my sister and I. And, when I was with my dad, it wasn't like we were broke, but, there wasn't much extra, and it wasn't like I came up wealthy. She, on the other hand, came up pretty wealthy. And so like, I felt pretty like.
Well, and because, when we got married, we finally told my parents.
Oh yeah, and her mom cried.
And my mom cried, but I could understand where she's coming from, because I know she just wanted to be a part of it, and she wanted to, have a wedding and walk down the aisle and all that kind of stuff. And I think that she just felt a little betrayed that we went behind her back, which is understandable now as a mother. But I still was. But
hurtful. Also for me, it was like I really want to marry her,
right?
And if I wait until I can afford,
right?
And at this point, I had pretty much run down my funds because I didn't know about budgeting. I didn't know how to manage money or anything like that. So when I did get a check from this accident, I went on an adventure, and I didn't really do much as far as investing. So, and the little that I did try and put into, like it didn't last. So by this time I'm like, well, I'm, a Bible college graduate. Like what the heck can I make?
I mean, I didn't care. And I think it also had to do with how she came up, because, her parents raised her very differently. And so she was just, I think she was shocked and heartbroken, but the only thing that she really said to him was that I was expensive.
Yeah.
So that is true.
She has been very expensive.
That is true. But
yeah, she always be like, "Oh, you so extra," and I'll be like, "You cost extra." So
yeah, and I don't be arguing with him. I'm like, "That's right, I sure do."
Yeah, so I felt pretty intimidated by that, definitely, because I was like, I better scoop her up right now and put a ring on it, so that because if we got to wait for the whole ceremony, I don't know how long it's gonna take for me to save up for that.
And we had also been we felt condemnation from
Yeah.
the Lord because we were sleeping together.
Yeah.
And so that
And we
was a
felt,
big
and we
thing.
would try and stop.
And we tried to stop.
You know, we try to stop, and
And then
then
it became like a game. And
yeah,
it was just bad.
it was a mess.
So
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you definitely like. That's a hard one because it's like, do you just go ahead and get married to squash that and work it out?
I think you need to pray. And I think that you need to check your heart about, like, am I sleeping with this man because I love him? Because
sex outside of marriage really confuses everything.
Yeah. And not only
It
that,
makes
but
a
it really,
mess.
I mean, I don't know a single person that's married that doesn't wish that they would have waited if they didn't, you know? And so that was another factor. And the fact that we got married, and we've had conversations about getting married. Like, we've also spoken about having a vow renewal when we've been married for 10 years because we didn't ever have a ceremony. And I think that would be very special. But at the end of the day, we don't have any regrets about it. And we went on our little honeymoon. We went to the Bahamas and we enjoyed it. We had a lot of trials through it, but I really believe that God was there with us through all of it. And we don't have any regrets about it.
Yeah. So, and then also just the finances. That honestly is like a huge testimony in my life because of the fact that I never really knew how to budget. I never really was wealthy. So getting married poor and having to live in a basement and then move into another basement and then move into a house, it was like incredible because of the fact that I knew I couldn't do it. Like I knew I didn't have the resources, the connections to get what I needed from my wife and I, but I always came to the end of myself like, God, I need you to come through. And he always did every time, right on time.
And I think he taught both of us so much from that because, you know, being from such different cultures, like my mother was raised to marry a man that was wealthy to provide. And so that was a concern that she had. But I think over time that we've proven that that's not necessarily biblical. And that's what God wants you to marry somebody that you love, and he does the rest.
Yeah. And just trusting him with the finances and also doing everything unto God, doing like, I'm not trying to like, oh, look at me, but like I work my ass off and I do it right. And I do the very best that I can every time, every day, every job. And for the last few years, I've been a painter and I've worked at a lot of different companies. And I've had conflict with some of the people, some of my bosses, because they wanted to cut corners and I wouldn't do it. And so after going through all these different, companies and I've been promoted a lot, and now I'm making over double what I started as a painter. And it's been miraculous. It's been like, cause finances, sometimes they would be like real short and sometimes we'd have a lot. And then I got to the point where I was like, I don't care if we don't have any money in the bank. I don't care if we have a lot of money in the bank. I trust God. Like I got to that point where I'm just like, finances don't bother me no more. But I still got to check my heart. And then there's times when like last December, I think it was, I was like, we were doing real good. And I was like, God, I'm at peace. And I don't know if it's because I feel comfortable because we got a big cushion of money in the bank, or if it's because I trust you. By January, all that money was gone. Mm-hmm. We got hit on every side. So, but I was still at peace. So I'm like, okay, I know I trust you. Mm-hmm. And so it's been up and down and everything, but we've been able to give more than ever before. Mm-hmm. And we've been able to do like the life that I can bring to my children and to my wife. I feel like it's better than where I came from. And I just want it to grow. And I also want to teach my children these principles, because it's not something that you're born with. It's something that you have to grow into. But yeah, I just wanted to say all that, because that's a big deal for me, you know, in the financial realm. So
yeah, both of us.
Yeah. And then she was real materialistic, and you know.
Yeah, and I've grown. I mean, when I was growing up, for like my mom would take us, me and my sister, like to a hotel just to go to a certain mall, just to go shopping for a day. Like she spoiled us, and so our perspectives are completely different when it comes to money, and God has definitely used that to open each other's eyes and stretch each other, because I've become a lot less materialistic, and found more of a balance. And I've also learned how to be thankful for how I was raised, but I've also learned where I don't want my children to be spoiled rotten, because I want them to understand the value of money, because I never really understood that. I was just given it. And also, I lived in my house, and I always worked so many different jobs, and I was a hard worker, and so I always had a good amount of money, but I would never save it. I would buy shoes and clothes and whatever else, because no one taught me to save anything. And if they did, they would just be like, why don't you save money? But then it's like, okay, how do you do that? Save $10? Like, what? You know, I don't know. So,
why save money when I could spend it?
Exactly,
Doesn't
right.
make any sense.
And like, I was never in a place, if I had no money, I could ask my mom for money or my dad for money, and he would give it to me, and he wouldn't be like, why didn't you save your money? You never asked me that ever in my life. So
yeah. So and for me, it's like I learned that scraping for dollars isn't trusting God. So like she stretched me too, where it's like, hey, we need a vacation, we need to take a trip, we need and I'm like,
we need some new clothes,
with what money,
we need
you
this
know?
or that. Yeah.
But it's like, okay, how about I trust God for the bigger things, you know? And that stretched me, and man, we've
been getting well.
So all right.
So her question about infidelity, I feel like
we kind of explained about how the coming to the point where we split up was really because we were selfish. We idolized each other over God, and
it blew up in our faces pretty much. So we'll just leave that part at that, because that's a very long story.
It is a long story.
But I'm gonna say how I think we got through infidelity,
because we split up for what, 9 months.
And
I moved to
he
Florida.
moved to Florida, and we stopped speaking probably after 3 or 4 months. And we would speak every now and then. I remember I called him probably once or twice when I was drunk or something, because during that time I was just broken, and I never really addressed the trauma that we had been through, that caused the brokenness. And so I was just going out, having fun, making money, and I was going to I was going to school, and that was hard. I was in beauty school, and it was by the hour.
Yeah, Paul Mitchell in Colorado Springs, don't go there. It's garbage.
It's absolute trash. But I went, and I graduated, but I had crashed my car, totaled my car. I mean, it was so much shit that had gone on that just really made life hard. And on top of that, when we separated, he went to Florida, and so it was a lot. But I think the only thing that really brought us through, because there was a time frame for probably 3 or 4 months where the both of us were so focused on masking the pain, and so focused on, okay, you know what, forget about him. He hurted me so bad that I don't care what about him at all, blah, 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 which is so obviously not true. And I'm sure everyone knew that around me as well. But I think when you get hurt by the person that you love to that capacity, that you can go one of two ways. You can try to mask the pain until it does finally go away to an extent where you can survive. Or...
Does it ever really go away, though?
No, but I said to the point where you can survive.
So you kind of just...
I think that it can go away to the point where it's so masked that you don't see it anymore, but it's still there. Or you can seek the Lord about the pain and address it head on, which I think we both had to do after we were so tired of masking it, sleeping around, and finding no pleasure in anybody else, thinking about each other. And I mean, it was so messy because we were both married. And the people that we were with had known that, and just, it was a lot of craziness and a lot of heartbreak and a lot of masking the pain. But thank God we both came to a place where we were sick of living that life and we were sick of masking the pain. And so we both brought our pain to the Lord. And I remember one day I decided, I'm like, I'm done clubbing. I'm done smoking. I'm done doing all this stuff. Like, this is not the life I want to live. I don't care what my marriage is going through. This person I'm turning into, I don't want to be this person. And so I remember there was a day where I was like, you know what? I'm going to like triple my work hours so I don't have time to go to the club. I picked up a 5 a.m. shift. And I chose that day that I was going to get up every morning on my knees in front of the Lord. And those were the two things that I promised myself I was going to do, is make money and be with the Lord. And so after I had made that decision, I started reading and learning about myself. And the Lord showed me things about myself during our separation that were so wrong, that were my fault, and that I could have done better. And he really brought compassion out of my heart for my husband, even though we were unfaithful to each other. I remember I had texted him, or he wasn't quite at that place yet, but I remember he would text me things that were not nice. He was still hurting and he was still going through his process. But I remember I would respond to him in love, because that's what God told me to do. And I remember just being at a place where I was so unbothered because I was so focused on the Lord, and I was so focused on just being the woman that he wanted me to be for my husband. And I told the Lord, if Zach is not my husband, I want to be a woman that my future husband could like, if you're not going to work this out, God. And so I worked at a call center for a good minute, and I worked hard and I worked long hours. And every time I was on a phone call, I would read the Bible, because you were allowed to read. And I remember there were so many times where I would not get a phone call for like 20 minutes. And I would like talk to the person next to me and be like, yo, like these calls are crazy. Like, we're not having any calls right now. This is crazy. And the person next to me would be like, what are you talking about? The calls are off the hook. And I would have been reading like a really great scripture, like just deep into the word. And I know it was the Lord. Like, I was in a place of just seeking him. And he was rewarding me and opening my eyes to the things I had done wrong, and giving me compassion for you and helping me to see where we both had done wrong. And asking him to, because when there's infidelity, one person probably has guilt and the other person probably has insecurity, because there's always a question in your mind, did this person do this because I didn't give them enough, or is it their problem because they're insecure? And I think that it's a little bit of both. But I came to the point where I'm like, Lord, search me and search my heart and remove all the things that are not from you. And I believe that he did. And I remember one day I was like, Lord, this is when I was far past that. I was so content with my life and with the Lord. I was like, Lord, whatever you want to do with my husband, like, I want to know, because I'm married to this man that's across the state and we don't even talk. And I just want you to do what you want to do. You know, Lord, if this man is for me, show me. And I remember the next day, and this was a heart cry. Like I'm saying, I was on my knees in front of the Lord, because I thought about you all the time. You know, it was so hard. But I asked the Lord, and I was like, do for me what I can't do. You know, reach this man in a way that I can't, because you're in the middle of this marriage and you're the one that put us together. So if you're the one that really did put us together, then keep us together or tear us apart, because I don't want to be in this. And so he did. Because the next day you called me and you apologized for everything. And I was so thankful to the Lord after that phone call, because it was everything that I had prayed for. And I will never forget that feeling I felt when you called me, because I knew it was you calling. Because of the Lord, I knew he would answer my prayers, and I knew that it was him telling me that you were the man for me, even though we had been unfaithful. We had been so mean to each other. We went so long without talking. We lived on different sides of the state. And that was him reminding me that his love for us is greater. And we had some trials amongst getting back together. But in that moment, I knew that was God telling me that you were my husband, even though you weren't acting like it. And you were the man that he had for me, even though I couldn't see it. And it wasn't coming to pass. And so I believe we got through infidelity because the Lord stripped us both of everything that we had. Everything that we had.
Can we get some tissues over here?
And so, I mean, I was at a point where I didn't care. I didn't have anything. I didn't have anything, you know? And all I wanted was God. And I believe that he wanted me so bad to get to that point, to where all I wanted was him. And he did. And it took all that. But there is to know, sitting here today, to know that our marriage went through that, I don't even think about that. Like, love keeps no records of wrongs. And I know that so many people think that after that point that there's no coming back. But I really believe that it really depends on what are you willing to really give up to the Lord. What are you really willing to go through for that person? Because we don't talk about that in our marriage. That doesn't ever come up. We've healed the wounds. We've been delivered. And we have 2 children now. And I got pregnant like 2 months after we got back together. And I know that was God's way of being like, here's your gift for honoring our covenant. And it's a miracle I didn't get pregnant before that, because we were sure having sex way before that. So all I know is that any marriage can get through infidelity if God is in the center. There's nothing that love cannot conquer, but it has to be real love. And the love that you have for your spouse really does have to come from the Lord, because you can't keep records of wrongs, and you can't be in yourself. You can't think about yourself. You can't have a pity party for yourself about what you're going through. You got to love your husband and your wife through it.
Yeah. From my experience after we split up, I was definitely drowning my problems in just going out, drinking all the time. It really was tearing up my health, like my whatever liver or something. Like I was probably dying. And I just didn't want to have to be sober, so the thought, the memories, and the pain from, because we had 2 completely different perspectives of what happened and what caused us to split up. Mm-hmm. And in my heart and in my head, you left me, and I was completely heartbroken. And
in my perspective, it was reversed.
Yeah. So I couldn't face the pain head on, and another reason why is because we were still married.
Mm-hmm.
Yet, like, before we split up, my view of my existence was one with you, and we had a whole trajectory, a whole plan for our lives, for our life together, that everything just got stripped away.
Mm-hmm.
And so now I'm like, I don't even know who I am anymore. I thought I was one with my wife, and now I'm alone. Now I'm out here in this dark place alone. And there wasn't man, I just it was the hardest thing that I've ever experienced in my life. But I did gradually, I mean, I was in so much pain and I knew I needed help, but I really didn't know how to dig myself out of that hole. And the Lord just kept calling me. And it wasn't that hard, but it took facing it and humbling myself. And I think that's the hardest thing when you're going through so much pain.
Yeah.
To humble yourself.
Definitely.
And I think it was at a point I went to a little conference with Daniel Clark and I think Daniel and Cara Washington, and it was Torben Sundergaard. And this guy was preaching, and it was on point. And there was baptismal pools and stuff, and so I was like, I got baptized at like summer camp at 15, and I don't know, I might have as a kid or something, but I don't know what it did. I don't know what it meant, So I was like, I'm gonna get baptized, and I did, and after that, it was like, especially when you would respond to me with love, and I was just like, it cut me every time, because I still hadn't given everything up, but
I know.
there was a point where the Lord was like, I showed you this in that moment when you asked me for her. I showed you this, and now you've given up. And I couldn't handle myself, because I did give up. And it was like there was no chance. But God. And it was nothing short of a miracle.
And our relationship now is so different than it was before. And it's like we have been through so much that could have broken us, and nothing ever did. And there's so much security in that place that we have now, because we both know that there's nothing that could separate us, because we've experienced everything that could have separated us. And we know the pain that we felt from not being together. And it's amazing, because that's the pain that God feels when we're not with him. And it's just such a parallel to how much he loves us.
Yeah. I mean, how self-centered can we be to not want to take each other back for infidelity when we've done so much worse to God, and he's always taken us back.
Exactly. We've more than cheated on God. We cheated on God with this world. we idolize other people. I mean, it's so endless. And it's sad to me how this world really doesn't think that there's coming back from that. And I'm not sure if it's because of the culture that we're in, or if it's because God says in his word that that's the only thing that you can leave your spouse for. But I don't believe that that is him saying you should leave your spouse for it. I think he's saying if there's no coming back from it, I understand. But I can get you through it if you're willing to understand my love for your spouse. And he
even said it wasn't God's plan.
Right.
But because your hearts were so hard. That's why I gave you that.
And we experienced that, especially immediately after getting pregnant. I remember being so insecure. And God really brought us through that place. And there was so much building we had to do as a couple, and we had to leave Colorado.
And we had to leave Titusville too.
And we had to be alone in our marriage and rely on only each other because there were so many voices in our relationship, even when we were separated, that told us we were never going to be together, or so-and-so doesn't deserve to be with you. I don't deserve anything. And so for somebody to be whispering those things in your ear, if you don't know the love of God, you will believe it, and it will feel good that you deserve better than what someone has done to you. But at the end of the day, I don't deserve anything on this world. God died for everything that I have, my life, my family, my husband, and that is what really kept us. That's what really kept us.
Yeah.
And now we're far, far past that. Now we have our family and our children, and
it's not like we don't still have struggles and issues. Like even now, yesterday we were over at Will's getting counseling.
Yeah.
Because there's still things like
that we deal with.
Yeah, we grew up so different.
Right.
And there's trauma and things that we have built up as far as habits.
Right.
And I think that are unhealthy.
I think every marriage comes to the place where there's things that obviously have never been dealt with that should be dealt with. And I think that if you have a couple that you trust, and God bless Marilyn and Will, because we trust them with our lives and with our children's lives, and God has given them to us in this season to really help us keep our focus on God. But more than anything, they are showing fruit of having a God-centered marriage. And I believe that when you're going through things in a marriage, that counsel is wise. And I know some people might look at it differently because of how it sounds, but marriage is hard.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it wasn't my idea. And if she never brought it up, I wouldn't have. Because it's like, do we need counsel? No. But the thing is
it
that
helping? Yeah.
It definitely helps.
Exactly.
I mean, I wouldn't say that any marriage counseling helps.
No, definitely not. You definitely need to pray about it.
Yeah. You got to be careful who you go to. You might go to a
definitely.
marriage counselor and end up getting divorced because
absolutely.
There's some,
because we've heard of that. And
And not even that. We had marriage counsel right when we got married. And that was horrible for us.
It was.
I mean, we love these people, but the advice that they gave was
not.
There
wasn't fruit.
It was not.
There
good.
wasn't fruit, and
no.
So, and it's not just that. I mean, you're trusting somebody with your entire family. I mean, the foundation of everything that you live on is your marriage, and so, and I think that our marriage counseling will be for a season, and I think we'll get to a place where we'll be counseling people. But I think that it's about being responsible. Like, look, we've got problems we need to deal with, and we need a third person, and we need a third party. We need people that know the Lord, seek the Lord. And I think that that's important to be okay with, because if ever your marriage came to a point where you were really struggling, are you going to give up, or are you going to do everything you can first to make sure that you're really seeing everything from the right perspective and you're really understanding your husband or your wife the way you're supposed to be? And are you humble enough to open up your marriage to somebody else so that they can really look into it from somebody else's perspective?
Yeah. Humility is key. Marriage doesn't work without humility.
Right. And, you know, marriage is hard, but it is the most, even after all the things that we've spoken on and experienced, I am so grateful that I married Zach. And the things that we go through make us stronger. And that goes for every relationship. I mean, I have friends that we bump heads or we fake bump heads, we argue, whatever, we throw, you know, this or that. But then we learn more about each other and we understand not where we're struggling and where we, you know, need to be more gentle with each other or this or that. It's really a learning process and it never ends. And you've got to have grace for that.
Do we have any other questions? No questions. What time is it?
It is 9:07.
Oh.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, you have anything that you want to say?
Well, it's been great being on this podcast, and I hope that somebody learned something. And I love you.
I love you.
And I'm so glad that we've been on this journey and that we have never given up.
Yeah. I wouldn't want to do it with anybody else.
Me either.
Well, I think that's a wrap. So,
Unless there's any more.
yeah, we'll see you next week, Thursday this time. Yeah, God
and
bless
maybe
you.
I'll be back again soon.
Yeah, she'll be back for sure.